Gabrielle from BY's Gardens, and we're in the yard where it's a little tippy, and we're going to talk about houseplants today. And everybody's really gotten into houseplants in the last few years, and which is awesome. I love that. But houseplants are not as simple as people want them to be. And something I often say is that we treat houseplants as decor when they're really more like low maintenance pets, because they require food, water, attention, light, rest, fresh soil, all of those kinds of things that a pet would require. But we buy them and we put them somewhere and we think, oh, I'm gonna have this beautiful jungle in my house, and then we don't necessarily do all of those things. And a plant will limp along for a long time, or you'll buy that one plant that's like, can't be killed, like a philodendron, or gosh, what else, Isabel? It's like a plant that's just impossible to kill.
Snake plants.
Snake plants, yeah. Those are
obviously
Sansevieria.
Every situation is going to be different. But.
Right, but there are some plants, and people are like, "Oh, I'm great. I'm a green thumb," and then they'll buy something exotic, and suddenly they have problems. Now, what we're going to deal with is some problems today. And number one, we're going to do repotting. Repotting is really necessary at least once a year, preferably twice a year if you only have a few plants. And the reason why, if you really think about it, the soil that's full of nutrients, it's full of organic matter, maybe even when it's really fresh, it has some microbes in it. It gets depleted because the roots take up those nutrients and use them and then transpire them out, as they live their lives. And so the soil actually becomes kind of dead. And if you don't transplant it, then you just get a plant that is, it's just struggling, or it doesn't look its very best. Or even a really interesting thing, every plant gets a flower. And suddenly, if you start really taking care of your plants, you get flowers, which is remarkable. So what we're gonna do is this plant is, we're actually not gonna change the pot, but we are gonna change its soil. A lot of times when you transplant, it's because it's gotten so big and root bound that you have to move it up to the next size pot. Make sure you never move it up too much. I think the rule is 2 inches, right? Like, your 2 fingers bigger, and not much bigger than that. Otherwise, then you get a whole nother host of problems. So, but with this plant, what we're gonna do is we're going to dump it out as carefully as possible. We're going to get rid of its extra soil. I'm gonna just set it in there. See how the pot is kind of dirty. Preferably, if you're gonna reuse this pot, you would wash it. And just because you're about to put new, sterile soil. This plant doesn't have any diseases, and it doesn't seem to have any problems other than it needing some soil. So we're just gonna brush it out. We're going to put about half full of the new soil. I'm gonna set that there, and now I'm gonna look at this. And so if you see this plant, it's not root bound at all. It is healthy, nice creamy root shoots coming off of here, but we wanted to take away all this old soil. It doesn't need it anymore. And you never wanna do this in the full sun or where it's really, really hot. You wanna make sure it's shady, or even inside. If you're gonna do this inside, just put a big tarp on your floor and have a repot plant day. And then you can put them in the shower to hose them off a little bit. But anyway, so we very gently, I didn't get all of the dirt off, I just got off enough of it that now it's gonna have nice fresh dirt. Let me set that to the side after I've made a nice mess. And I'm gonna use my board. And now that probably needs a little bit more in there. Make sure and buy a nice loose potting mix. This will have a nice combination of bark, soil, humus, perlite or vermiculite, peat. I know some of those things aren't sustainable, but they still are the best thing for potting plants. And so don't ever use like native soil from outside or anything too sandy or too clayey, because then it's kind of defeats the purpose. Make sure you get nice new soil. So we're gonna set these in here carefully. And this is your opportunity too, especially with this kind of a plant, that you can put like your taller one in the middle, and you can actually style your plant a little bit so that it's growing the directions that you want it to grow. Not every plant is going to be like this. Most plants are going to be in a single root ball, and you wouldn't be able to take it apart like this. but you could at least shake out some of the old soil. And so we're gonna put some new soil in there, and we want to make sure that we plant it right where it was planted before. There's a little crown, and right here, if you look, there's a root, or maybe even a new shoot node coming out right there, and you can see where the dirt was. And you don't want to make the soil any deeper than that, just because that's what it's accustomed to. Otherwise you take the chance of rotting it at its crown. And so we're just going to keep gently putting that in, and just gently packing it in, because we want to make sure there's no big air pockets, because we don't want a ton of oxygen in the soil, meaning like a hole where when you water it, it suddenly all falls. Okay, so it's like that, nice and packed in there. We're gonna give it a little drink. I don't know what I put it on. I like rain. And when you first do this, you want to make sure that it goes all the way through. So it's called watering through, and you want to do this with all of your plants if you can. I mean, again, if you don't have giant plants and you don't have a ton of them, take them out on your front porch or your back porch and let them, at least once a month, water all the way through. And don't save that water. Remember that everything that rinses through is actually a lot of salt and a lot of waste, and you don't want that. Don't ever use your plant tray as a watering system where the plant is drawing back up that wastewater. You want to make sure and take that all away. So now this plant has brand new soil. Let me let that drip out and continue the mess. The next thing we're going to deal with, I'm going to deal with this one first. This is an awesome little succulent, and it's a type of jade plant, but it's the one that has the little cones or cylinders with the little indents. This one actually has the same thing that the cactus has, and it's called mealybugs. And she's getting in there close to show you. They're like little fuzzy scales almost, and there is an actual bug in there. And what they do is they are sap suckers. So they, basically suck on the plant and weaken it by taking away its nutrients or its fluid. And the way to take care of that, this one has a little plant marker in it, is by using a solution. Careful, do not get that on your hand. The cactus is a deadly one. So basically it's a solution of 50% water, 50% isopropyl alcohol, just in an extra bottle. Isopropyl alcohol is becoming kind of hard to find. I went to 3 stores today and I found 1 bottle, but it's a really good plant medicine basically, or basically an anti-pest medicine. So it's half alcohol, half water, and a drop of Dawn dish soap. And what that does is it goes onto this little mealybug or whitefly, or what else? Scale, and it suffocates it. It dries it up. The soap suffocates it. The alcohol dries it up. And you have to apply this until you don't see them anymore. Sometimes if you've let a plant go for too long, it'll kill the plant, because it's on life support as it is. But this one we've been treating for a while, and so you just basically don't squirt it everywhere, just squirt it where the scale are, or the mealybugs. They look like little cute things, but they really aren't, because they wreck everything on your plant. So I'm just going to go around and put this in all the little crevices, and you're not going to rinse this off. The alcohol does evaporate. And how often do we do this, Isabel?
I would do it on a weekly basis.
Okay. Until you don't see any new.
You can even wipe off the bugs after you've sprayed them.
Yeah, that's true. If it's on a stalk or something like a big leaf, that's easy to do. With
just take a Q-tip or take a paper towel with this alcohol on it and just wipe it off.
With this particular plant, you would just break every little leaf off of it, and so we just have to hope for the best. But it really is kind of a tedious thing, but if you leave 1 or 2 behind, they will figure out a way to live. So, and this is good for any plant that gets it. Obviously, if you have a huge, what are the plants that are kind of susceptible to? I mean, not all plants seem like they're susceptible to it, but it's like palms, succulents.
Yeah, it really is just a combination of stress, either from the store that you bought it at or your environment. It could be extreme fluctuations in temperature,
Yeah.
or water,
Yeah.
or lack of water, or there could be
Light.
drafts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, I will take full responsibility for both of these two that have this, because this one got put in the basement near a sun. It's a very light window, but it's not a direct sun, and these like direct sun. Cactuses also like direct sun, and I put them somewhere where they weren't getting direct sun, and so basically it puts the plant under stress, and then I mean, these things are just in nature. They could be waiting dormant in the soil. They could be on another plant that you didn't even know had it, but it hasn't gotten going because the plant is stronger than the pest. And so just watch for this stuff. And so like I said, you can use this on whitefly too, and you'll see that, like ficus and palms. It seems like the more like kind of tropical plants will get those. And again, you'll see these like little flutters and fluffs of, you know, little white flies. Same thing. It's really good to do it outside. If you can't and it's winter, then do it in your shower and let it dry, and then put it, you know, somewhere where you can do it again in a week. So that one I've sprayed. I'm going to set it to the side, and this one is the one we're going to work on now, because basically this has been the most healthy, beautiful, wonderful little cactus that is so scary. If you get near this cactus, these things jump off of you, and you have to scrub them off with like one of those kitchen scrubbers. But now I haven't been paying any attention to it, and I let this happen, which makes me really sad, because it was a really beautiful cactus until now. So I have a trick with cactus. Once you do like have, even if it's just dead things, like little leaves, basically. What are these called when there's a whole little
Well, it's basically
paw?
it's stem. Yeah,
Okay.
or yeah, it could be anything. A pup, it could be.
Yeah, that's true. It's like a pup.
It's like,
So yeah, this was really like flourishing, and then I moved it from a super sunny window to literally just the opposite side of the room that was the same amount of light but not burning sun through the window. So it took what, maybe 3 months, and this is what happened. So basically I use a pair of cheap tongs. Make sure you wear gloves when you work with cactuses, and I can just go through and pick out all of these little sad pups. And I also have done this just when it gets like too full and it's like everything's rubbing on each other. But you definitely want to do, I'm going to take off basically every one of these that these mealybugs have just covered, because they're not going to probably come back anyway, and they've even changed color to where they're a little bit brown. But never ever ever work with a cactus without gloves on. I've thought a few times, oh, I'll just, like this one's in a pot, and I thought, oh, I'll just grab it and take it somewhere, and I always regret it. Like, it's always a mistake. They are absolutely meant to survive. So I'm just going through here and I'm picking off all these little... On this type of plant, it's actually kind of hard to see the mealybugs, because these are actually almost the exact same color. But you can see the mealybug is actually really, really white. And it actually does have a soft body that breaks apart when you like touch it, which you would never do, and you would not use the paper towel method with this. But that's probably why it escaped me a little bit, is because it looks like a little, my white cactus. What is this one called? Angel?
I do not remember.
Angel cactus, but it's so cute. I love it so much, and I'm so sad that I did this to it. But you live and learn. Like I said, they're really, even though they are decor in some ways, they're really more like pets. So basically, I think I got everything off that I want to take away, that I can get to anyway. And now I'm going to start spraying it with alcohol. And it seems like it's everywhere. Like, it doesn't seem like any place is left unturned. So sadly, I hope that I haven't let this one go too long. We'll find out in a week, I guess. But I'm just gonna go through here, the same exact thing as I did with the other one. A little bit harder to see with this one because it's so fuzzy and cute. be really careful when you're pressing on these little paddles, because they do just break off even when it's healthy. And that probably goes for every kind of succulent cactus. So basically I'm just going to do this, I keep saying basically, sorry, and go through the whole thing. And then with this one, I'm going to take it out of the pot. I think some of those things have jumped off on me. I swear they're like static. I'm going to take this out, and this one actually is to the point where it does need to be watered through. So before I spray it anymore, because I would rinse some of it away, this one hasn't been watered in about 3 months. That's the other thing to remember with houseplants, is every single family or variety of plant has a different water need. And so research what that is. I have those pokies everywhere. Research what that is, because there's some plants there's some plants in our house that we water once a year. There's some plants that we water every 3 months. There's some plants that need water every 3 or 4 days. Some need spritz, some need soaked, some need, all these different things. And so make sure that when you do get into houseplants, because they are an investment and they are a great joy, but then it's disappointing when they die or they struggle. So just research water for a philodendron, water for a fern, water for a cactus or a succulent, light needs, because those are really important too. And because what happens when they get enough light is that they do the process of photosynthesis, which then depending on the plant, every 3 to 5 weeks, it processes all of that water and does a whole really cool chemical reaction to get rid of that water before you would want to water it again. Some plants, like a fern, they don't do that. They want water every 3 days, depending on the fern, or they can live in a bathroom. Sansevieria, kind of the same thing. They're kind of succulent, and they require very little water, like maybe every other month. So just make sure and do those kind of research, and then you'll be much more successful. You'll feel really good about your plant care and buying plants, and you won't feel like that maybe you're struggling a little bit, or that you shouldn't do that because you don't have a green thumb. You can learn all of this, I promise. So we're so thankful that you're watching, and come back and see us next week.